announcements, international announcements, to know that we're coming back here to England. We've got Australia around the corner. We're going up to Toronto very soon. It just feels like AEW is continually growing and doing all these big things. How does it feel to you to be taking AEW on such a global tour like that?
It's really exciting. I think that 2025, I really believe, has been our best year, and I'm so proud. And we keep putting great nights and great moments and achievements together. If you're not aware, Renee Ruffy is coming back to the UK. We will be back here next year at Wembley Stadium, and I cannot wait for that. But I'm not going to wait until next year to bring AEW back to the UK. We're coming back this year. For the first time ever, we're coming back in December to the UK. We'll go back to Cardiff for Collision. Cardiff Collision, December 13th. And we will debut AEW in Manchester on December 17th. I can't wait to bring AEW here. And for the first time, the Continental Classic is coming abroad.
The Continental Classic, you Sam. Now, hey, Christopher, I'm so excited about that. We're having such a great year. It's so great to see all of you. And before I start answering your questions, I have some questions for all of you. It's okay if you would indulge me. And I want your honest feedback because I really care about talking. I care about talking to people who love wrestling. I care about talking to the fans, and I understand you're working media. You're not necessarily here as fans. But if you would lend me your honest opinions, I don't want you to BS me. I want to hear what you really think. I want fan feedback. Do you think for a company that takes pride in its champions, that takes pride in the sport of pro wrestling, I really care about the integrity of the promotion and the championships. Do you think that the way MJF has conducted himself in recent weeks, at trying to verbally execute and then renege on an execute, I don't think that's, personally, I don't think that's how a championship challenger or somebody who has been, potentially could be a great champion, should conduct himself. I don't think that's in the spirit of the contract executions. How do you feel? Do you agree with that?
Let's strip him of it.
Oh.
Sorry.
What do you think?
Trying to contribute.
What do you think? I don't think that's in the spirit of the sport. I would be interested to hear feedback. Is there anybody that yes, what do you think?
I think you should retreat.
My guy.
I think that's
Yeah? Well, here's what I think. I think that I want AEW to be different, and I've been listening to the feedback and the voice of the fans, and I think people want the championships in the sport of pro wrestling to have integrity. We're having the best year in the history of the AEW, and I think a lot of it is that we're willing to listen to the fans, that we care about the sport, and we want the fans to believe in what we're doing. I think it's really important that when we have a contract execution and the integrity of the championship, that we can maintain the dignity of the sport. I also think it's very, very important to promote championship matches. I don't want to have a big ticket championship match that we are unable to advertise. And also, I don't really want to necessarily utilize a stipulation here that's being utilized other places. I'm not trying to duplicate what other people is doing. I really believe we are our own promotion. That's why going forward, I want to set the tone that from now on, I think the right thing to do is all contract execution should be on at least a week's notice so we can properly promote the matches, so that we can properly give the fans notice and have the integrity of a championship match. And I think it's for the best for us. I think it's for the best for our media partners and for the integrity of the championship, if that makes sense.
Yeah, man.
Well, I love a plan.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you.
I love a plan. I love a schedule.
I think it makes a lot of sense. Thank you. And going forward, that's what we're going to do. And I really appreciate your giving me that opportunity to kind of take your temperature on it. I think it's the right thing to do. Thank you, Renee.
All right, now you guys can ask Tony some questions.
Sorry. Hi, Tony. Hey, Adam from Demon Circle podcast. Great show tonight. Thank you. I really appreciate it. You touched on the fact that you're going back to the UK, you're going over to Canada, you're going to Australia, you've been to Mexico. What's next for AEW sort of globally in the next few years? Are you going to be expanding some more countries?
Well, we just did Scotland debut this week too, which was very cool. Very cool. And absolutely, you know, we're on in over 100 countries around the world now, about 150 countries all over the world. It's kind of remarkable. I'm excited to revisit some of the places where we've had great success. I think it's going to be great to debut in Manchester and go back to Wales, go back to Cardiff, where we had a great show last year, have a big Cardiff Collision again. And I think it's going to be great to go back to Australia, debut in Sydney, and go back to Brisbane. I think it's going to be so great when we eventually do go back to Mexico City, because it's one of the most successful and best things we've ever done. I really think it's been a key aspect of the shows this year, and also the most watched episode of Dynamite all year and in a long time was Grand Slam Mexico. This year has been such a great business success for AEW in so many ways, and certainly going to new markets, new opportunities. All Out is going to represent one of our biggest pay-per-view attendances, one of our biggest pay-per-view gates in one of the best markets in the country. I know Renee would agree with that about Toronto.
Absolutely.
And so we're going places where we've had success. We're visiting new cities in some of the countries that we've tapped into. Like I said, going to Sydney, going to Manchester. That's really exciting. Going back, hopefully, to Mexico City, back to Toronto, and debuting, like I said, Scotland was great. I can't wait to go back to Cardiff. And yes, we are going to hit new markets and debut new places. I can't wait to visit some new countries, but also the fans that have really supported us this year as we debuted in some of these new markets. I want to go back there again and again. I can't wait after this Wednesday. Not only am I excited to come back to London for AEW All In Wembley Stadium and go back to where we set the pro wrestling attendance record. You know, here we set the pro wrestling attendance record for this venue. In Wembley Stadium, we set the pro wrestling record for the most tickets sold in any venue in the history of professional wrestling in the world. We sold over 81,000 tickets at Wembley Stadium. I can't wait to go back there. I can't wait to be back here. But definitely conquering some new cities in some of these countries that we've opened up is really an exciting thing. Like I said, bringing the Continental Classic to the UK for the first time is going to be a huge milestone. It's going to be a great winter. And I think 2025 has been such a great year for AEW. That's going to be a great way to end Q4 on a great high note, because I've talked about it a bit. We started streaming on HBO Max this year for Dynamite and Collision. That really gave us some new momentum and a new opportunity. And it really not only is a new platform for fans to watch the show, I think it really set the tone. There was a lot of marketing around the show, a lot of excitement, but what nobody expected, there was no projection that said after we started streaming the show on HBO Max, more people would start watching on TBS on Wednesdays and TNT on Saturdays. But that's what happened at the start of the year. We actually grew the cable viewership against all expectations. Then Q2, we did it again. And we put up some great numbers in Q3 where both shows have a real chance to go up again. And at that point, that's 4 bars. That's a full year of growth from Q4 to Q1 to Q2 to Q3. And we're right on pace to do that, I really believe. Not only total viewers, but also in the key demos like 25 to 54 that the network really cares about. It's been a great, great business year for AEW. But I'm glad you asked about the different territories and places we're going, because the key is the people. And the people have supported the AEW TV and the pay-per-views and all these great places. And it's really exciting when we can come visit a new place like this past Wednesday in Glasgow, or come back to great fans here that have supported AEW better than anybody in the entire world. I mean, I think it's fair to say at least 3 of our top 4 gates ever, if not, maybe, we'll see, maybe the top 3 gates in AEW history. It was pretty close. London's been incredible. The UK has been amazing to AEW, and I thank them for the support and really all the great countries we've been to. Thanks for asking.
Hey, shall I help through some fight school? So I've watched AEW since the beginning, and what feels like night and day is your approach to women's wrestling. As you're seeing the vast growth in the way the women are represented on the shows in both the 0 hour, it feels like you've grown so much from that. So can you just talk me through what's caused that shift, and where do you see your approach to women's wrestling moving forward?
I think the quality of the wrestlers is much better than when we started. I think the roster right now is 10 times better than when we launched. I really believe it's the quality of the wrestling. That's what I always said, is that as we build the quality of the roster, build the rivalries, build the great matches. I think the past year, we've had more great rivalries and matches in AEW women's wrestling than maybe in the past 5 years combined, which is pretty incredible. And I'm very, very proud of them. And it starts at the top with the champions. It starts at the top with the champions of AEW, the AEW World Champion, Timeless Tony Storm, the TBS champion, Mercedes Moné, who is the hardest fighting, hardest working champion in all of wrestling, with 9 championships all over the world, including several of our partner promotions, and the ROH Women's World Champion, Athena, who has been incredible, undefeated in Ring of Honor, and has been on a great run in AEW as well.
and has really been mowing down competition in recent weeks and had a great match with Timeless Tony Storm tonight. I think all three of them are just absolutely fantastic champions. And then up and down the roster, there's great stars. Throughout that 8-woman tag on the show earlier, to have 8 women the caliber of Willow Nightingale, Chris Statlander, who has been with us since the very beginning and represents somebody who's worked through this and I still think can be a top champion in AEW and represents some of the very best of the roster, and somebody that has been here since the beginning, but also has so many more stars around her and quality wrestlers than we had at the beginning. To have Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander, and the relationship is complicated, but they're 2 of our best wrestlers, 2 former TBS champions. Then you got Queen Aminata, who's a real rising star. She's built a real rivalry with the Triangle of Madness, particularly with Tekla. And then Harley Cameron, somebody that's grown in popularity so much and become a really popular character, but also has made great strides as a professional wrestler that's only been wrestling for a few years and has had an amazing 2025 despite missing a long time due to injury. She's having a great year. She started great, and she's really building that momentum back. And then the villains in that match, the Triangle of Madness, tremendous. Julia Hart and Sky Blue have been with us a long time, each of them, and they've really developed to work their way into these key spots. And then Tekla has been a top free agent signing, and I'd known Megan Bain was going to be a star for a really long time since she worked with us at Universal Studios in Orlando, and then she was out for a long time with an injury. Bringing Megan Bain back to AEW is something I was really excited about. And then of course Jamie Hayter made a return on pay-per-view tonight, and I've had to make a lot of changes. I really appreciate your kind words about all the matchmaking and all the rivalries, but it comes down to the quality of the wrestlers. They are doing fantastic, and the fans are supporting them. The fans are supporting these top stars, like these great champions, and the rising tide has lifted the quality of the wrestling. It's lifted the excitement around it, and it has helped me work even harder on it. And I have always believed in it and the quality of it, but I believe the quality of those matches relative to the roster has never been higher. And I also think, like I said, whether it was the women in the All-Star 8-woman tag, where Jamie Hayter upon her return, or in the championship matches on the pay-per-view, including the representatives from Stardom, Bozilla, of course, Persephone from CMLL, great stars joining us, and Alex Windsor, somebody who's really stepped up, a great star from here in England, who we really believe in. That's another great example from this roster. So many great women represented just on this one event, and that really only begins to tell the story of how great this division has been, and also overcome a lot of injuries. You know, I was the coach on the Casino Gauntlet match in Dallas, and we lost a quarter of the match to injury. Like, of the 12 women who participated, 3 of them were immediately knocked out, and I had to change a lot of story. And you know, thankfully, with such a great roster of people and people stepping up, we've been able to really do that. So thanks for asking.
Hi, Tommy, Dave Flanagan from Post Wrestling. You mentioned the simulcasting on HBO Max this year, and you've been asked about specificities on that before, and you've said WBD keeps some of that close to the chest. But as a benchmark, are you able to tell us, with live and same day viewers, are you hitting the million mark between cable plus Max? I understand you may or may not be able to.
I don't know. I honestly, according to a report I saw, we may be, but also I don't exactly know, because that's the most detail I've seen. All I know is that we're one of the top sports shows. I don't know what the NBA streaming viewership was in the past. I'm not sure what the March Madness streaming viewership is. I don't know the NHL streaming viewership. I can compare regular season NHL to AEW and see, I think AEW has probably had a good chance to be a very strong lead in the sports tab on HBO Max. And I know they're very excited about growing into the pay-per-view business as well. So there's going to be more and more opportunities to build our relationship with HBO Max and establish it as a great platform for AEW. You know, TBS has had wrestling since the 1970s, TNT since the 1990s. And it's a great tradition we were able to bring back over these past 6 years of AEW. And now we're doing something very cool, uncharted. I really believe HBO Max has the greatest content in the entire world. I think if you look, to me, the greatest television shows of all time are on HBO Max. And to be able to sit there and to be able just to exist on a platform that carries TV shows and and sports, like what's on HBO Max. It's a real honor. And I wear it as a point of pride. And I'm really proud that we've been able to do that. But I honestly can't say exactly I don't have remotely, not even 1% the amount of data I get on a TBS show. Like I get such extent, I know every minute, every demo, how many people were watching in every age group and from male and female.
And we do your stats guy utility, so
If they gave them to me, I'd be really breaking them down, believe me.
I feel like I burned a question and asked them quick.
No, it's a good question. I think you got a question people were probably are gonna aggregate a lot, so it's a pretty good question. But yeah, please continue.
A really quick follow-up is on the creative process. In the past 12 months since you were in London last, our listeners, I think, are noticing more vignettes, more character building in the mid-card, more long-term storytelling. Has there been a shift in your process at all?
I talked about it a little bit. I, with the best of intentions, last year went out there and I tried to get really collaborative. And I said, let's all do a lot of Zooms, and I want to hear everybody's ideas, and I'm going to take every suggestion. I'm going to take, I'll try to take your idea, and maybe I'll take your idea. And it's a lot different than how I did the show, especially in the pandemic. I was looking back, Kenny went out there, I was saying to Nakazawa, I was like, man, it's a lot different than when you guys were wrestling in front of 3 people in the pandemic in QT school in Georgia against the best friends. And, a lot different than the Kenny and Alan Angels match in front of 3 people to be out there in front of the biggest crowd ever in this building. And one of the biggest crowds in AEW history. We've come like a really long way, but also I had a process that was pretty great in Jacksonville. And I realized as we were going into this year, I had a realization, and it was a lot like the realization that I came to when I first started using that process. That process I used in Jacksonville and really in 2020 was a lot different than I would have done in 2019. In 2019, I was also a big committees and meetings guy. And then in 2020, I kind of famously said, hey, at Christmas, I went home and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to start putting the shows together at home. And then people in 2020 really liked it. But what I didn't count on is the pandemic would hit. I would be the only person in Gorilla for months. And I would be a one-man Gorilla, which is what happened. And if you look at those shows that I talked about, I'm the only person backstage. It was because we shut down the backstage, so there was only one person doing everything back there. And people thought it was like the best AEW yet. So and then I thought back and it was like, that's a pretty good process. I still want to hear everyone's ideas, but I'll come in with an outline. And then I want to talk and say, okay, here's my outline. Here's what I think we should do. And there's more people than there were at that point, and there's more people to bounce ideas off of. And I think it's really worked really well this year. So I kind of came in Christmas of this year, Christmas 2024, this past year. And I had like the same look in a mirror conversation I had with myself exactly 5 years earlier, because I wasn't really happy with the way the December 18th, 2019 Dynamite ended in Texas. And then we took a week off and I said, you know what, January 1st, I'm going to make sure we do the best show we've ever done to this point. And we did. At that point, that was the best. January 1st, 2020, at that point, was the best episode of Dynamite we had done by far. It was the most complete, best episode of wrestling television we had done. And then I said we'd never look back. And ironically, then the next week I did something that in January 8th, in the Rio Cristal in the match that I was like, I knew about. Like I told myself in Christmas 2019, I was like, in 2020, I'm not going to do anything I don't believe in. 2020 is like the year you just trust your instincts. And if you don't really feel good about something, don't do it. And then week 2, it was like a diet I cheated. And I made it to January 8th. And then after that, I was like, that was it. That was exactly what you told yourself you weren't going to do. Don't do that for the rest of the year. And I did. And we tightened up. And we did so well and came together. But I also thought, like, it's a good process. And it's good to hear people's ideas, but it's probably better to put the outline together and then talk to everybody versus, like, having 86 people throwing in ideas. You know, probably the worst episode of Seinfeld they ever did is the second to last episode, which was really the finale for all the writers besides Larry David. So they all tried to get 1 or 2 jokes in, and it turned into the worst episode they ever did, and also was the one that had the most writers. So it's a better process this year, but also I give most of the credit to all the credit really should go to the wrestlers and the fans, because this year the level of wrestling on the show has been the best it's ever been. I think the support we got from the network is the best it's ever been. The the backstage talent, everybody, whether it's people working in production that you never see, or the announcers, or both, people who do both, like Renee, who's in production and on screen, everybody's just stepped up. We're having a really, really good year. Also, we've been really fortunate to have, up to this point, a very healthy roster of great stars. I gave a very detailed answer about what I think's been happening with the women in AEW, and it would be hard to be more interested in detail than what I just did. But to give a thorough accounting of it, I think that it would be safe to say that the roster have stepped up and delivered week to week to week as much as ever before, and I think it's incredible. And we were really fortunate. We had some stars that were away from us last year for different reasons, some due to injuries, some due to filming projects, and they all kind of came back, and the stars aligned. All in Texas is one of the great successes for the company, and it really set a high standard coming here. To follow a show like that and to come here and to be able to set a new milestone, to sell a lot of tickets and also have a pretty similar live gate, but also follow up our run of business in London, and also to have the feeling back here that we have, that just we're doing so great, and I talked about our great women's champions and women's stars. I think, of course, I referred earlier to MJF, and even if I don't agree with his tactics, and even if I have to work overtime to make sure that he respects this sport, he is a great wrestler when he wants to be, and he went out there tonight and did have a great wrestling match, and the crowd was really behind it with Hangman Page, somebody they really, 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 really believe in. And Hangman Page, what he's been able to do, how far he's come from the start of the company to be the leader and the champion he is now, and to see the leader and champion he is now. He was already a really special wrestler, special talent when we started AEW, and when he first won the championship. He had come so far then, and to see how far he's come, it's amazing, because Hangman's story from the beginning of AEW, from the first show, Double or Nothing 2019, for 2.5 years to Full Gear 2021, from Vegas to Minnesota, and 2.5 years was a story of growth. But what's amazing is then the growth over the past 3.5 years, it's even more amazing. Hangman Page, somebody that's been so special here, and to have our great champions out there and great stars from New Japan Pro Wrestling, including the president, who picked up the big win for his company and his team tonight. It was really special to have such a great collaborative team and some of the greatest fan favorites in wrestling. But on the other side of the ring, somebody who deserves a ton of the credit for this year is Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley has been the champion for the majority of the year up until Hangman won the championship. Jon Moxley is probably the greatest world champion I've ever known, and he's been the champion, the only person who's ever been the champion of the AEW World Championship, the WWE World Championship, and New Japan's IWGP World Championship. He's the only person ever to carry all those titles, and the company really rose to some of its greatest heights, maybe our greatest heights ever, with Jon now. He's been the champion multiple times, and I feel like every time Jon's been the champion, things have gotten better, and the company was in a better place by the time Jon's reign ended. I also think that throughout the year, Jon, whether it went the way he intended it to or not, he did do what he said he was going to accomplish. He brought the locker room together with a common goal to take him down. He brought the heroes of AEW rising to a new standard, fighting, doing things they didn't know they could do themselves, and it set the stage for Double or Nothing. It was really great to have Dr. Martha Hart here tonight talking about the Owen Hart Foundation final. It's been a nice tradition having Martha and her son Oj here in London with us, and I think this year and all of our success really comes down to the wrestlers and the fans, and I really appreciate you saying that about the shows, but I think trusting our instincts and really listening to the fans has always served AEW well, and I think we're doing a great job of that this year. Thank you. Thanks for 2 questions. Hopefully they get aggregated for you.
And 2 more questions left for Tony.
Great.
Renee, hello.
Hi.
Jay from OSW here. First of all, I love your interviewing technique. You add such a warm and welcoming vibe to AEW.
Thank you.
I need to ask, Jon Moxley and the Death Riders, holding AEW hostage, running roughshod tonight. Does that make things difficult at home?
No, it doesn't. I mean, kind of to Tony's point, I was obviously a little bit more privy to John's reasons for why he was doing the things that he was doing. And it's hard to disagree with a lot of the things that he was saying that he wanted to do. And, a lot of those conversations were conversations that were had behind closed doors of why that championship was being held hostage, why he is doing the things he was doing. My husband is my husband. That is my family. And he is somebody that I can trust in full-heartedly to make sure that things go the way that they are supposed to be going. So no, I mean, we've also very much so kept our careers pretty separate throughout the duration of our careers, being on camera together, working at different promotions together, etc. So I come to work and I do my job, and he goes to work and he stabs Darby in the ear with a fork. And I'll talk to him about it at the hotel as soon as we're done here. Keeping it pro over here.
It's a great question, and if I may, I thought John's actions this year really had raised AEW to a new standard, lifted us to new heights. I was pretty disappointed at what happened after the match tonight. What could have been a great moment for some of the great fan favorites of the world of wrestling ended in a very serious situation, and for all the great things I have to say about John, that I did not care for, and also I would like to say some words about the person who left on a stretcher tonight, if I may, Will Ospreay, who has been one of the most important additions to this company. Will Ospreay came to AEW at a time where we really needed it. I'll use a couple analogies about somebody that's a wrestling hero of mine, and two wrestling heroes of mine, actually. I've been watching wrestling since I was a little kid, and, this isn't a perfect analogy on either side, but when Will Ospreay came to AEW, he injected new life into the promotion. He was a workhorse. He created new matchups that you never thought you were going to see, and he really set a standard of hard work and excellence that was unparalleled, and I'm very grateful to Will Ospreay coming to AEW, and I'm not sure when or if we will see him come back from what happened tonight. I think we're still very worried about his status, and that was a hard way to end the show. I think Will Ospreay's been so great for AEW, and I'd like to talk for a moment about this guy who is an incredible workhorse. When I was a kid, it was a really big deal when Ric Flair came to the WWF when I was 8 years old. And I watched WWF and WCW. And when Ric Flair, who had been the wrestler that I watched set this high standard in another promotion, came in, I watched the standard of wrestling go up. And I also watched, to me, somebody come in and immediately walk in and be the workhorse. Like when I was a little kid, Ric Flair was wrestling Hulk Hogan in the afternoon and Roddy Piper at night on the same day. And Will Ospreay came in here, worked as hard as anybody. I think he came at the perfect time. I think we really needed him when he came. I really, really believe in this guy, and for him to get that kind of a moment in front of his hometown fans, it was really special, or at least close to his hometown of Essex. So it's a short enough drive with his family here, and that was probably not how I would have wanted a storybook ending for Will Ospreay, but I just want to thank him for everything he's been doing for AEW, and no matter what the future holds for Will Ospreay, he came here, and from the moment he arrived, has been one of the hardest working, unselfish people, and I was really glad to see him get that recognition from the fans here tonight, and I was sorry to see him leaving as a condition you left him. Thank you.
Last question for Tony.
Hey, Tony. Dave Reverendson from Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. Great moment for Tanahashi tonight. I think as fans, we love the way that you treat legends over the years and the way that you book legends, and it was another great one tonight. Speaking of Tanahashi and New Japan, moving forward, is the relationship set to continue? Will there be more events? Is there a possibility of taking Forbidden Door to Japan?
I know you're sitting pretty far away, and unless you're wearing really, really good spectacles, I'm actually wearing a New Japan Pro Wrestling necktie. So we have a great partnership, a great collaboration. President Tanahashi picked up a great win tonight. It was an incredible match. It was great to see the stars of AEW and New Japan come together against some of the greatest wrestlers, but also frankly a rogues gallery of pro wrestling villainy. And I really, really, really thought it was a great match, and it could have been a great moment had the Death Riders not tried to take it upon themselves to end Will Ospreay's homecoming the way it went. I think President Tanahashi had his last match in London tonight. He's got more matches coming up, but we're running out of dates left with the Ace. And I thought it was really special for the Ace to be able to go out on top in his last Forbidden Door. And somebody who's been here, Jon Moxley and Hiroshi Tanahashi was the main event of the very first Forbidden Door, and they were back out there in the main event tonight. And I was really glad to see the Ace get the big win for his promotion, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and also for his team that included some of the most popular wrestlers in the world. Of course, it was a dark ending after the match, but bell to bell, Tanahashi was so great. He fought so hard. He's an inspiration, and throughout the remainder of his retirement tour, we're wishing him the best, and I'm really honored that he made the stops with us to have his final matches in Glasgow, and his final match, albeit unsanctioned, but still every bit as special tonight in London in the Lights Out Steel Cage match. It's been a special night here, and there's so many people I'd like to thank for it. Renee, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. It's been great working with you tonight and every show, but really the show this year have just been that much more fun and special, and all the great places we've seen this year. Here we are in my very favorite place in the entire world, London, and with so many friendly faces. A lot of you I know have been following and covering AEW since the very, very beginning. So I really, really appreciate you all being here in person. Tried to answer as many questions as I could. I always do. If I didn't get a chance to answer your question tonight, hopefully in the all-out media call, or certainly in Toronto if you're there, I would love to talk to you. And Adam certainly is very, very liberal about booking me out for interviews, which I appreciate and always ask for and volunteer for, because I really enjoy talking to all of you. So if I didn't get a chance to answer your question today, please reach out to Adam, and hopefully we can line something up. God bless you all for being here. Thank you for supporting pro wrestling. It's really nice to see you. Tonight was, in so many ways, a banner night, a great night for AEW, and I really appreciate you all being a part of it. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. Thank you for covering AEW. I hope to see you all for All Out. Thank you to our partners in New Japan Pro Wrestling. We did it again. What a great year. I really appreciate your support, friendship. Walker, great job on the show tonight, buddy. Great job. And thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. We had a couple of great commentators from Oklahoma out there tonight. That's always a good thing. Thank you for being here. God bless you all. Get home safe. Thank you.